Because reproduction. Reproduction is defined as the process by which living organisms give rise to young ones of their kind, young ones that look like them. So, and I said that reproduction is the reproductive system is basically the um, only system in your body that is not concerned about your existence primarily. What is concerned about is the conservation of your genes, the conservation of your genetic makeup. Is that okay? It is futuristic in its it's concerned about preservance of your gene for the next generation. Do you understand? It's more concerned about the next generation than even the organism itself. So therefore, the continuity of species relies on individuals reproducing. So if if a particular species will continue to exist forever, it will be dependent on reproductive individuals, individuals that are reproducing. And there are two types of reproduction, the asexual and the sexual. So asexual reproduction is whenever you have the word "are" begin a word like that, it means not, in this case, not sexual. That is not sexual, asexual and sexual reproduction. But let's consider the asexual reproduction first. In this one, unicellular individuals such as bacteria and protists, as well as some plants, fungi, and few organisms reproduce asexually. So these are the ones that reproduce asexually: bacteria, protists, and some plants. Of course, and fungi and some few animals. Okay, now that is the reproduced by mitotic division. So what is mitotic division? Remember, is division into when the parent cell divides into two, basically. So because of the parent cell, it is involving only one parent. The offsprings or progeny, as I said, the offsprings or progeny will look exactly like the parent. So we call them clones of the parent, clones of the parent. Then in multicellular organisms, the new individual will arise from cellular division of an ordinary cell, which is asomatic cells. Asomatic cell. Now, you see, somatic cell, the word soma means body. Is that okay? So body cells undergo mitotic division. That's just to tell you. Body cells are growing cells. Now, the non-growing cells are called non-somatic, and those are the sperm cells or the eggs, the ovum. So those ones do not grow, so they undergo meiotic division. So that's why the organism who reproduces asexually basically undergoes mitosis. Is that okay? That is one of the methods of reproduction by asexual means. Is that okay? But the major point here is that it involves only one of the organism. Is that okay? Now, organisms that reproduce asexually are found in stable environments to which they are very well suited. So, the environment also dictates the stability of environment also dictates how or whether or not reproduction will occur. Now, these are the types of reproduction by asexual means. We have the fission rather, fission and by budding. Now, there are two words that people normally confuse. We have the fusion and fission. Now, fusion means coming together. Coming together, that's fusion. While fission means splitting apart. Is that okay? That's fission. So basically, we talk about fission in terms of binary fission, particularly binary fission. So the word binary, if I say binary number, it means we are talking about ones and zeros, right? Numbers in base two. So two, that bi means two. Is that okay? So basically, what we're talking about is that organism will split into two, mitotically. So that's binary fission. And then budding. Budding is just an organism growing. Now let's go to the other slide so we can see the different explanations. Um, Now fission is common among unicellular organisms such as bacteria. Now fission occurs after mitotic division of the nucleus when the parent cell now splits into equally sized daughter cells, forming a new organism. Now I've covered how mitosis takes place. I've covered it in one of my videos. So maybe I'm going to post that or show you that so that you understand how this splitting takes place. But if you already understand it, so you will know that mitotic division first happens when the nucleus divides into two, that is, separation of the chromosomes into two equal parts, so that um, then that is then the cell itself will now separate at telophase. Is that okay? So that's how fission primarily occurs, mitotic division. Then in budding, now, budding is similar to fission, now except that the division of the cytoplasm is unequal. So in this case, the division of the cytoplasm is unequal. That's with budding. Now, the new individual that arises from the outgrowth is called the bud. So there is an outgrowth from the body of the organism. So there's going to be an outgrowth, which we call the bud. Is that okay? So this bud, after growing for a while, will now cut off. Is that okay? From the parent. So budding can also be seen in small multicellular animals. All right. So um, we said we have fission and budding. So you'll see in this slide here, there is an outgrowth here. You're going to see an outgrowth here that grew larger and larger until it cut off. Cut off. So here it will grow. By the time it gets to the ground, it's going to grow as a new organism. So that's basically budding. So this new outgrowth here is called a bud. It's called a bud. Then with fission, you're going to see the cell dividing. Is that okay? It's going to separate around here. Um, um, so basically, the process is mitotic. Is that okay? By mitotic division. If you already understand how mitosis takes place, so this phase here is the telophase that is showing here. Telophase. That is karyokinesis. Is that okay? The splitting of the nucleus. So and then that is basically how the splitting takes place. It's going to split into two organisms, two new organisms. All right, that is pretty much it about these guys. Then we have fragmentation. Now, fragmentation occurs in multicellular organisms when the body of the organism breaks into two or more parts, each of which will form a new organism. So primarily fragment, the word fragmentation is from the word fragment, and fragment means smaller parts of a thing, like more like the particles of a thing, or so those smaller parts, you know. So basically what's happening is that the organism will break into these small parts. Is that okay? And those small parts will regenerate. Is that okay? The cells of those kind of organisms are said to be pluripotent. They are said to be pluripotent. So pluripotency simply means they have regenerative capacity. Regenerative capacity. So you don't cut one off and say regenerative. Those cells are said to be regenerative in nature. You don't cut off one part and say that you have successfully killed the animal, because those parts will definitely regrow themselves. So you see this guy, you look at this slide here, you're going to see the starfish is an echinoderm that is growing. So one part of it cut off and is now regrowing into a new cell. So this part was one that cut off. Then you now see other parts are already growing out of it. Is that okay? So it's also seen in platyhelminths, which are the flatworms. So you can see of course the platyhelminth. So this is a platyhelminth. This is called fasciola hepatica. Fasciola hepatica. Is this basically fasciola hepatica under the group planaria. Is that okay? Planaria. So this group, the group that look like this, they are called the planaria. Okay. So planarians, have pluripotent cells. So one part cuts off and it grows into a new one, and that is what is about then. Then we have with worms and new individuals. With worms, a new individual may form when the worm gets so long that it simply falls apart forming new organisms. Yes, that is one other thing you can see with some worms. Is that okay? So we have spore formation now. Spore formation now. With bacteria, we call it sporulation. It's called sporulation with bacteria. So one a part of this, this is a fungi, for example. Um, Other fungus that you see grow by spore formation are mucor. Is that okay? Mucor grows by spore formation. Now, so you or this is a basidium, a basidiomycete. Mucor is a zygomycete. Is a class. Is that okay? Is a phylum. We have about four phylum of fungi. We have the zygomycetes, zygomicota or zygomycetes, and then we have the basidiomycetes. Any guy, basidiomycetes. Now, any fungi that has a cap-like this thing like this is called a this cap-like stuff here is called a basidium. Is that okay? So basidiomycota primarily. So my point is this: there is also the ascomycota, ascomy, ascomy, ascomycete. That is where ascomycete is where yeast belong. Ascomycete. So when we want to review the classification, I'm going to show you all of this again. So, but the point is this: that you're going to see that spores are falling off of the pilus of that guy, of that organism, of this mushroom. This is actually mushroom. Is that okay? A species of mushroom shown here. All right. So those are spores. The spores are born in sporangium. The spores are born in structures known as sporangium. And I Now sporangium from the word spore and angia. This angia means a cup-like shape that bears spores. Is that okay? So it's cup-like. So you can see this thing I'm drawing here. It's like a cup primarily. So this is going to be an angium. Is that okay? And it is born on a stalk that is called sporangiospore. Is that okay? Sporangiospore. That's what bears this structure up, right? Now, when a spore lands in a suitable environment, it will germinate, forming a new fungus. Is that okay? It will fall on a surface that is suitable, and it's going to become um, a new organism. Is that okay? And its process of germination actually begins as a bud too. It begins as a bud. So it's going to begin to grow as a bud, then grow, which will later develop into the new organism, the mature organism. Now, vegetative reproduction is many plants are capable of vegetative reproduction, which is the separation of one part to form a new independent plant. Now, this one is just like as fragmentation is to echinoderms and some flatworms. Vegetative reproduction is to plants primarily. It's almost the same way. But if you cut off, for example, you see the stem of cassava, you see, you just have to cut a part and then grow it. Or majorly, if you have seen where cassavas have been harvested before, you see that after pulling off that stem from the ground, you see that the farmer did not intend to plant it back, but after some months, he's going to see that stem has installed itself in the ground again, kind of like not like it's installed itself, but primarily it's going to begin to grow again. You understand? It's going to begin to grow into something new. So that is that is you know that is the vegetative reproduction that you see. Is that okay in plants? So you're going to see, for example, look at this onion bulb now. So you're going to see you're going to see, look at, now let's look at the ligaments. We have the lateral board. Now what will happen is that the 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 bulb is going to is going to you know all of these parts of the distance of the bulb are actually vegetative, meaning that they can regrow by them, they can regrow into the new organism by themselves. We have the corn, we have the potato, we have the potato. Look at the potato, for example. So all of the parts, can really regrow themselves. Is that okay? You see all these parts that you're seeing here, all these parts here, all these parts that you see here. Excuse me. Okay. So all these parts that you're seeing here, all these parts here, you see, they can really grow back. They can grow into a new organism. Is that okay? They grow into a new organism by themselves and they separate. Is that okay? That's why you see the propagation of potato very easily. If you plant on one side, you're going to see it multiply itself. Is that okay? Because the entire body is vegetative. Is that okay? Now there's parthenogenesis. Now parthenogenesis means development of one. The word parthenos refer to one parent, and genesis means origin or production, or originating, kind of. Is that okay? That's genesis, or beginning. The word genesis actually means beginning. So parthenogenesis is the development of an unfertilized egg into a new individual that is a clone of the parent. So in this case, the sperm will not fertilize the egg, yet a new organism will arise. So in order to obtain needed diploid um, set of chromosome, the egg will often duplicate by mitosis. So the egg would have first duplicated by mitosis so that the organism that will be created will still be diploid. Is that okay? So, and animals that are parthenogenetic include bees, wasps, ants, and some species of birds and lizards. Okay. Now, so we can see a species um, this is lizard, a species of lizard, I think, yes, and bees and wasps, all of those guys, they are also parthenogenetic. So this is also a bee. Is that okay? The fertilized eggs of bees, wasps, and ants can develop into females. Is that okay? And it's primarily occurring in the female species, the female gender of that organism. The female gender will give rise to other females, and that's the point. The species, the organism that will grow, the new organism is going to have the same gender as that of the organism that produced produced it. Some fertilized eggs of some species of lizards are, and our very own stick insects will develop into females. A population of these in some regions may be composed entirely of female organisms. Is that okay? Because it's the egg, that is produced by the female that grows into the new organism. So primarily it's going to give rise to a female. So that's the way it happens. Now, what are the advantages and benefits of asexual reproduction? Now, one is that no need to spend time and energy finding a mate. So, which is very important in sexual reproduction. Now, you have to first find a mate. The mate has to deem you worthy before accepting to mate with you. Is that okay? Now, when you're not deemed worthy by the female, especially, you will not find a common you will not come to common terms, and because of that there will be no mating. So but in sexual reproduction there's no need to expend time, energy, or time in doing that. The organism just develops into something new. Is that okay? A new organism just grows from the other organism. Then no need to use energy or resources producing eggs and sperm that potentially would never be used. I was talking about the fact that we produce millions of sperms, or release millions of sperms on ejaculation, whereas only one will fertilize, one of those cells of the millions will fertilize the egg. That's what I was saying. The students told them you are one in a million. And of course, that's true, you are one in a million, because a million sperm swarm on the day you were conceived, because, more than a million sperm actually swarm and swam rather, and you were the only person that was eligible to fertilize the egg, or fast enough to fertilize. So that's why you're one in a million. You should not look down on yourself. Is that okay? So the point is that there is no need to utilize energy to produce that 1 million sperm for sexual reproduction, because the remaining 999,999 sperms will not fertilize the egg, and they will be waste. Is that okay? Resources have been used to make that 1 million. Is that okay? In a sexual reproduction, there's no such wastage. Is that okay? Of resources. Now, what are the disadvantages and the costs? Now, lack of variation within the population, and what that means is that there is less likely potential to survive after environmental change. If there's an environmental change, because all the individuals in that population contain the same species, have the same adaptation level, and all of that, they might not be able to, they might not be able to, you know, they might not be able to survive. So because of that, they might all die off. Is that okay? And of course, there's something called inbreeding depression, um, but that occurs when the same, that one is with sexual reproduction, but it's almost the same, kind of like the same problem will occur because it's this the same problem, genetic problem will occur if there's a genetic disorder in that species. The same genetic or disorder will be experienced throughout the entire population because it's one organism that is giving rise to all of the this thing, all of the progeny. But with sexual reproduction, for example, that is not the case. With sexual reproduction, you have different organisms. That's why because of the process called recombination or crossing over, recombination or crossing over, hmm, which is alluded to, or another name for it is crossing over, is alluded to by Mendel's second law of independent assortment. So, because of that law, the organisms that are from the same parents in sexual reproduction, they don't look exactly alike. Do you understand? So, what will affect A might not even affect B at all because of the independent assortment of gene that has taken place during the process of reproduction. Now, with sexual reproduction, most multicellular organisms reproduce sexually. Now, sexual reproduction involves male and female gametes. That's one thing. With sexual reproduction, both male and female gametes needs to come together. Now, what is gametes? Gametes are the sex cells. Is that okay? Which are sperms and eggs in this case, uniting to form a zygote. The word zygote is coming from the word zygotose. Zygotose means a product of syngamy. Another word for fertilization is syngamy. Is that okay? Syngamy means fusion of male and of sperm and egg. That's just the simple definition. Syngamy, is that okay? So zygotose is going from the word that means product of 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 syngamy. Is that okay? So the zygote is a unique new individual introducing variation into a population. Yes, it introduces variation. That's why you don't look exactly like your sister or your brother or any of your sibling. There are some differences. Is that okay? Now the cells of multicellular organisms can be divided into two, and these are the germ cells. So we have germ cell or non-somatic cell. Germ cell, also called what? Non-somatic cell. They don't grow. Is that okay? Then somatic cell. I told you soma means body. Is that okay? Body cells, because they are growing cells. Every other part of the body grows. Is that okay? Except the germ cells. Now, so somatic cells are the cells of the body with the exception of germ cells, while germ cells give rise to gametes. Okay. Then we have sexual reproduction. Now, with germ cells, mitotic division takes place. So it's mitotic division that produces germ cells. Meiosis produces germ cells, and those cells, germ cells, are said to be haplontic. Is that okay? Haploid. The word haploid is gotten from the word haplus. Haplus means single. Is that okay? Single because it is a single set of chromosome. This is what I mean. For example, every other cells of your body as a human, you have 23 pairs. So what does that mean? Singly, you have 46. Is that okay? So every other cells of your body, your cells of your eyes, the cells of your nose, the cells of your teeth, the cells of your ear, the cells of your eyes, the cells of your chest, the cells of your whatever, is going to contain what? 46 chromosomes. Is that okay? 46 chromosomes. But, and look at the word zome again coming. And the word chromo means colored. Is that okay? Colored. Then so means body. Is that okay? Colored bodies. They are named that way because they stain differently. Is that okay? When you use biological stains. The biological stains means like things like colored, think of them like pigments that I said, you know, that they use in, that's change, colorize the stuff kind of to separate between parts. Is that okay? In the cell. Now, but the point is this, that so as an organism, every other part of your body is going to contain 46 chromosomes. Now, but your sex cell, if you are a woman, your egg cell is going to contain only 23. So this is a single set. Is that okay? The formula is 2n. So this a diploid organism or a diploid cell will contain 2n, while a haploid will contain only one set, haplus, single, which is n. Is that okay? So aplontic, that's the meaning. Haploid. Is that okay? Now, the ova and sperm will now fuse to form diploid. Is that okay? So, ova is N, egg, sperm is also N. They will now produce the organism that is what? 2N. You understand? The organism will now have what? 46 pairs. 23 from female, 23 from male, from the father, 23 from the mother. Okay? So that's the zygote. Now, the zygote then divides by mitotic cell division to produce larger number of cells that differentiate to form um, various different types of tissues that make up the new individual. Okay, so that's what happens after fertilization has occurred. After fertilization occurred, then the cell will now begin to divide mitotically. Is that okay? And we're going to see the stages of its division soon. So we said by meiosis. So by meiosis, I'm believing that you have done cell division before. So by meiosis, this guy will break his 2n. This guy is 2n. It means that this human being, this woman has 46 chromosomes, will break. The egg will divide into two and will produce only one set of chromosome. And this one will produce only one set of chromosome, the sperm. By the time they fuse, they are going to get a 2n zygote. And by many division, it will now give rise to the baby. Is that okay? Now, sexual reproduction involves two parents, but there there may be only one. So some worms, such as tapeworms, are hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites, we already covered that, organisms that possess both male and female reproductive parts. So meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs, yes. Hermaphrodites do not fertilize as a first option, but they do produce genetically different offsprings. Yes, hermaphrodites can, they do not self-fertilize. Is that okay? As a first option, they do not fertilize themselves. Is that okay? But when they actually now, fertilize themselves, then they can now produce genetically different organisms. Usually, hermaphrodites undergo asexual reproduction too. Is that okay? They don't self-fertilize themselves. Um, or cross fertilization. What that means is that they will is another organism, even though they are still hermaphrodites. They will, for example, there are some fish. We call them, we call that process potandry. Now, potandric, no, we call that there's what is called synchronous reproduction. Now, synchronous is just that there's synchronous and sequential. Now, the synchronous is just saying that they are going to form at a stage and then sequential. Okay, yeah. Let me explain sequential. This one is quite easier. Now, this sequential is just saying that both an organism will have both male and female reproductive structure, but at a point in its life, is going to turn into one, choose to become a male or choose to become a female, but it has the potential to become both male and female. It's common to fish. Is that okay? So, at a point in its life, it can become a male. When it becomes a male, it's going to mate with a female. It will not self-fertilize. That's what it means by sequential reproduction. Is that it's seen in fish. Is that okay? Synchronous. All right, so that's that. Basically, we're going to see reproduction in fish. The very broad um, explanation on it. It's not going to be deep, but just the ones you need for your O level at least. So now, what are the advantages and benefits of sexual reproduction? The advantages and the advantages and benefits. Now, the genetic diversity introduced by sexual reproduction can allow a species to survive changing environmental conditions. This is a major benefit of the survival of species. So why organisms, in fact, the organisms that have colonized the earth and survived most of the adverse conditions of the earth are the ones that are able to reproduce sexually. So, in fact, the first set of organisms were were asexual. They reproduced asexually. So by way of evolution, or they were able to. Evolution simply means a sequential process of change, that occurs within to an organism over time. Is that okay? Over a long period of time. So over a long period of time, organisms now began to evolve into organisms that could mate with one another, because that will bring in variation. Is that okay? So those variations will allow for an organism to be able to adapt well. So, for example, you as an organism, you have some advantages over your. It's possible, that's what I mean now. Because of variation, you will have some advantages over your parents. For example, you might be more handsome or more beautiful than your parents. So those special traits, we call them hybrid vigor. We'll treat that in genetics, in genetics basically. But those special traits are called hybrid vigor or heterosis. That's another name, heterosis. So they give you, a an edge over your parents. Is that okay, to survive in an environment, or just special qualities, special attributes? Now, what are the disadvantages and the costs of reproduction? Now, the organism must use energy to first produce germ cells. And now some of those germ cells might go to waste, as we have said. It's not all the germ cells that will be put into use. The organism may have to change its usual pattern of activity to ensure these gametes are brought together. Is that okay? At the right time of the year. So it might have to alter some things in its normal routine, just so that it can reproduce at a particular time of the year. Now, some reproductive behaviors may attract predators, not only to not only a reproductive mate. Yes, some organisms are in a prey-predator relationship. There's some predators already know the mating season of some organisms, like in the fish setting, for example. There are some organisms that already know that at this part of the year, there are some fish that embark on what is called migration. Is that okay? Reproductive migration, or migration for reproductive reason. Migration simply means they are moving to one part to go and reproduce and then come back. So there are some there are some predatory fish that would have known that cycle. Is that okay? So they know the particular path where they are going to take, the path where they will take, and so they will wait, they will lurk around, they will lurk. And by the time you see it, they are going to, capture those organisms that are trying to go and mate. And, they want to go and, meat, and then they are captured and eaten. So it's very is a disadvantage too. Now, reproduction in some species leads to deadly competition between males. Yes, for example, we have in some animals like lizards, like fish, some fish too. Lizards, primarily, you would have seen lizards. They exhibit what is called territoriality. Territoriality means they will create a confinement for themselves. So inside those confinements, you will now see females, or you see females there. You see females, many females. So there will be one male who is the head there. No other male can enter here. So any male that wants to make his way here is going to have to fight. And usually they can fight to the death. So it's the death of one male that results in one male controlling this family again. If this male wins, if this one wins this one, then he will now be the one to control this territory. Is that okay? So usually it can result in the death of one of the males. So that is a disadvantage. Then the cost of sexual reproduction, however, clearly outweighs the cost, as reflected by the fact that nearly all eukaryotic organisms reproduce sexually. Yes, because so you will see that most eukaryotic organisms reproduce sexually. So it means that it's because of the benefit outweighs the cost, the disadvantage. That is why it is so. All right. So in the next segment, I'm going to treat reproduction in animals. That's the next thing we're supposed to do in reproduction in animals, sexual reproduction in animals. All right. So see you in that next segment. I don't want the video to be too long.